such a lack of supply too. You had two wicked imbalances, right? A lot more
Right.
demand, a lot less supply. Um, the other side of that coin though is we have up until now, up until the pandemic, we had largely gone into rescue mode from the monetary side.
Hmm.
Right. This was the first time that we did anything like direct payments to households or
Right.
all these forbearance
Right.
programs and stuff like that. And now that consumers have gotten a taste of it and politicians have gotten a taste of how much
Agreed.
consumers like it, yeah, that playbook's likely going to be deployed again.
That's
And who
my
knows,
biggest fear.
maybe even deployed to a bigger extent, right? Because
Right.
hey, we did it this way once, let's just do more of it, right?
That's QE. QE was a one-time tool that they're not going to use again. That's what we were told in 2008. And here we are. They've been doing QE for non-crisis events ever since then. So I think you're right. That's my biggest fear is that that playbook has been written and now they will keep expanding on it.
All right. Well, look, a number of other topics I wanted to get to with you that we're not going to be able to get to, but let me start to wrap up with there's a question that I've started asking guests on this channel, and the audience seems to really like it. So since we get you this week, I want to ask it of you, which is we've been talking about money and financial investments, for this past hour and 15 minutes. What's a non-financial, non-monetary investment that you would encourage people to consider investing in right now? And just to give you an example, I've had some people talk about health and fitness. I've had some people talk about work on your communication skills. Somebody suggested taking a sales course or getting some exposure to sales that just sort of gives you these lifelong skills that you'll benefit from in all aspects of your life. Had some really great ideas that I wouldn't have expected, but they were great. So I'm curious, is there anything that pops into your mind as a life skill or a behavior or anything that you would encourage people to lean into that's not just monetary related?
Put your phone away, especially when you're off of work.
The
Uh,
disconnect.
Exercise, do things that you don't get caught in ruts, be social. It's important to be around other people. They've proven that, mentally, physically. Just take care of yourself and don't stress yourself over the markets and over what you think may happen. It's very easy to fall into these bullish and bearish camps that can be very stressing. And like the Uber bulls, it's just as stressful as the Uber bears. The world coming to an end versus the world booming from the investment side is very stressful. So try to separate yourself and just be level-headed. And I read a lot of articles from people I don't agree with at all. And I do that because it either points something out that I hadn't thought about or it strengthens my conviction on something. So, just be nice to everyone. Where this world is pretty crappy right now. uh, Just be nice, talk to people. Um,
All right. Well, that
that a
was
little
that was
too
great.
hokey for
No,
you
no, no,
or
no. It was all good. It was a lot of different things, and I could talk at length about I think any one of them with you. I want to underscore one part that you talked about, which was disconnect from the technology and be social.
Mhm.
Um, at our core, we are social creatures. It's just how we evolved, right? We evolved to live in tribal units, and there's a there's a great book which folks, I'm going to give a quick little anecdote, and if you want me to bring this guy on, let me know in the comment section below. It's not monetary related, but if you remember the movie or the book, The Perfect Storm,
Mhm.
Michael, the guy who
Yeah, yeah.
wrote it is an investigative journalist named Sebastian Junger.
Uh-huh.
Really good guy, really fascinating guy. He ended up writing a book called He wrote a book called War, where he was embedded with a U.S. platoon in Afghanistan in a hot zone there. He was there for, I think, 14 months with these guys. He wrote a book called War about that experience, but he then followed it up with a book called Tribe. And the reason why he
I'm
wrote
writing
Tribe,
that down.
you should write it down. This is a really cool book, and it's a short book. Like you can read it on an airplane ride. Um, the reason why he wrote Tribe is he was sitting in Germany with like the commander of the platoon and a few other people, getting ready to fly back to the States. And he was talking with the commander, and the commander said, look, he's like, we hated it here. I mean, let me just be honest about it. Like, we're all young guys. There's nothing here that we like. Our wives aren't here. Our girlfriends aren't here. There's no video games. There's no alcohol. It's like 120 degrees in the shade. People are shooting at us, right? It's just miserable, right? Like, we all just dreamed about going home. But I'll tell you, if there was a helicopter fueled up, ready to take us back, we'd go to a man. And Sebastian was really struck by that. Like, wow, what is it that would make somebody who hates that place so much be willing to go back when they've got what they want right in sight, right? They're just about to go home with their families. And then he watched the troubles that these guys largely had kind of reintegrating once they got back. And he said, it's not the PTSD. He said, the Army kind of knows how to generally deal with that. He said what it was is that people just felt so disconnected.
Right.
They were in an environment that was very, very real, and then went to one that felt very, very artificial, superficial, fake. And what he kind of came to realize through his investigations in the book was that humans evolved in these tribal units. So that's what a platoon was, or as a relatively small group of where everybody knew everybody. Everybody had a purpose. Everybody had a role to serve.
Right.
And the way in which humans evolved is it was basically you versus the world, right? Whether it was the elements, whether it was predators, whether it was other tribes who were going to come in and steal your stuff. There was a lot of adversity that you guys communally had to pull together to face every day. And everybody had a role, and everybody had to trust everybody. Everybody had have everybody's back. And he said, in these units, he's like, you might hate the guy who's on watch with you personally, but you'd take a bullet for him because he would take a bullet for you, right?
Right.
And so it's that sort of vivid aliveness where he's like, crazily enough, like war, military situations, he's like, that's where humans are kind of living the most the way that we were designed to. And he actually found lots of other parables. Like he said, the Peace Corps is very similar, where people are, working in a small village to build a bridge or whatever, right? You have that same sort of experience, and they have that same sort of reentry problem where you come back to the States, and you ask anybody something and you just get the superficial, oh, fine, oh, it's good, and people smile, but they don't treat you like they care about you, and then you're back in your home and there's nobody around, and you get sucked into your devices, and you just feel this lack of being connected to living.
Right.
So anyways, I just wanted to underscore that point about disconnect and reconnect with other people, because literally that is how we are wired. And there's some really interesting elements in Sebastian's book where he interviews a lot of different people in a lot of different situations. And one is people who lived in Beirut. And he, a totally war-torn country at one point. It's put itself back together now. And we went and talked to people who lived through the war. They would say, nobody admits it publicly, but we all kind of miss the war, because all the social class barriers went down. We all pulled together. We all worked together. Once it was over, those barriers came back up, and we're just a lot less nice to each other. That sense of connectivity and purpose and shared mission, was gone. And yes, it's great not to be worrying about dying in a missile attack or whatever. So I don't want to minimize that, but it's really about sort of what makes life fulfilling and meaning. A lot of that gets drained away the more disconnected we are. So I want to thank you for bringing that point up.
Okay, good.
All right, folks. Well, look, just in wrapping up, on that sort of a related point to the importance of social relationships, a little bit of sad news to share, and I'm sharing it because I may end up having to take a day or two or more next week off from recording, or if I do record, you might see me in a different background. Folks may remember that my mother passed away earlier this year. Sadly, my father is in the hospital. Things aren't looking good. It's looking like I'm probably going to have to fly back home over the weekend to likely say goodbye. So I'll be doing that. Been a hell of a year. Still hoping for some sort of 11th hour miracle here, but I just wanted to let folks know in case indeed you don't see me next week. The last thing I'll just sort of note about that, related to what we were talking about here, Michael, is losing family members, losing people who are close to you, totally forces you to think about life in different ways. And one of the things I'm thinking a lot about is a comment, I think it was made by Maya Angelou, but it's Yeah, it makes you evaluate, how you want to be for the people that are in your life that you're in close connection with. And her quote was, people don't really remember what you do or what you do for them. They remember how you made them feel. And, that's something I'm spending a lot of time right now just trying to think about, okay, how do I want to take, that type of attitude forward from here going through all this. So I'm sure Lance and I will riff on that at some point next week or in one of these rants we do at the end of these videos. All right, folks. Well, sorry to drop that on you, but again, that may explain if I'm absent next week. If you've enjoyed this conversation with Michael, would love to have him come back on this channel whenever Lance can't make it, or maybe sometimes we'll just shove Lance aside anyways and have Michael here. Let him know your love for that by hitting the like button and then clicking on the red subscribe button below. A reminder that our subscriber count, or growth